So before we start talking about today's episode, I need to make one distinction about something. There is a version of openness that heals people, and there is a version of openness that just unfolds on them. Now, the difference isn't how much you share. It's whether what you share has been brought before God first. So today on the show, we are talking about testimony episodes, how to take the real hard, sacred moments of your life and turn them into something that actually ministers to people. Not just moves them, not just impresses them, but actually ministers to them. Because there's a difference. And we're going to name it today. So you ready? All right, let's go. Now, I've sat on stories before. Things that were happening in my life that I wasn't ready. Things that were happening in my life. Hard seasons, difficult seasons, emotional seasons. Some for months. Some I've still been sitting on years later. Not because I'm ashamed of them. You guys know I'm pretty much an open book around here. And I'm not afraid to say the hard things. And it wasn't because I was protecting myself, but because I've learned, and sometimes the hard way, that an unprocessed story doesn't become ministry when you hit record. It just becomes public processing. And there's a difference between a story that is still happening to you and a story that God has already walked you through. One of those can help people. The other is still yours to sit with. Knowing which is which, well, that's where we're going to start today. So let's be honest about what a testimony episode is not. It is not a place to process something in real time. It's not a diary entry recorded out loud. It's not a vague story about how hard things were with no clear landing. And it's definitely not a performance of pain to generate an emotional connection. And here's one thing that may sting for some of you. It's not about you. Even when it comes from your life, even when it's deeply personal, a testimony episode is a structured story that points people toward hope and truth and transformation with God at the center of it. You are not the hero of the story. God is. You are simply the witness. That single shift from storyteller to witness, it changes how you write it, how you record it, and how it lands for your audience. Now, I want to share a framework with you on how to do this well, and it's called the REDEEM method. It's basically 5 questions to bring your story into focus before you ever hit record. First, reflect. We're going to start here every single time. Before you outline anything, before you open up a new document, I want you to sit down and ask yourself 3 important questions. What actually happened? What emotions are still attached to it? Is any part of this still raw? Are you still bleeding from when this happened? And that last part matters the most, because if you are still in the middle of it, you're still crying at random moments, you're still angry, you're still sorting out what you believe about it, you are not ready. That doesn't mean you won't ever be ready. It just means right now you are not ready to talk about it. As many of you know, and I've shared a little bit here on the show, last year was a hot mess of a year. There is a whole lot going on last year. And the one thing that I've learned from that is God redeems scars beautifully, but an open wound is not a scar yet. So if you want to do this type of episode, I want you to ask the Holy Spirit, is this mine to share right now? Or is this still mine to hold? Timing is not a small thing. In fact, it's everything. Second, extract. Now, once you know the story is ready for you to share, your next job is to find the principle or the lesson within it. Because your listeners do not need every detail. They don't need to know the who, the what, the when, the where, the how. They only need the lesson your details are pointing to. So here's some examples. Maybe the story is about a friendship that ended badly and you didn't see it coming. The lesson would be God sometimes removes people from your life, not as punishment, but as protection. Another example would be that you said yes to an opportunity that you truly weren't ready for. Hello, I did that years ago. And everything fell apart publicly. What's the lesson? Obedience and timing are not the same thing. You are not sharing the event. You're extracting the spiritual truth buried deep inside of it. Because there always is one, right? In every story. It's that truth is what actually helps people. The details are just the road that we have to travel in order to get there. Okay, the next one is discern. This is where we ask, who is this actually for? And your answer is definitely not anyone who is going through a hard season. We want to be specific about these types of things as we are with all things, right? It could be for the woman who just watched something she built completely fall apart. It could be for the leader who is questioning whether she heard God correctly in the next steps for her business. Maybe it's for a podcaster sitting on a story that she's afraid to tell. Because when you don't name who you're talking to, the story sort of loses its direction. It's like a boat just floating in the water. It's not going the direction that you want it to go because nobody's steering and the motor isn't on. It just becomes emotional noise instead of a word in a particular season. Now, discernment isn't just a spiritual practice. In podcasting, it's a production decision. So make sure that you're naming your person, who it's for, and speak to them directly. Next, equip. Now, this is where the majority of testimony episodes completely miss the mark. They land the plane emotionally. People feel something, and then the episode ends. But feeling something and knowing what to do are two totally different things. So before you close out your episode, you want to give your listener a little something to bite onto, to hold on to. You want to give them one question to sit with for reflection, one actionable or practical step, however small that is, and one prayer that they can pray in their own words. Because ministry that only inspires us is incomplete. But ministry that equips people to take the next step, even the smallest of steps, that's what makes impact, and that is what changes lives. And finally, magnify God. It's not about the moment. It's not about you. It's not about the drama of what happened, but it's about God. So this means don't inflate the details to make the story more compelling. Don't perform emotion if you're no longer actually feeling it. Don't force a tidy bow on a story that is complicated. Just be your authentic self. Tell the truth faithfully, precisely, without embellishment, without performance. Because some of the most powerful testimonies are the quiet ones. A small moment of obedience, a subtle shift in peace, a door that closed, and looking back, you're pretty darn grateful it did. Because the power of this was never in the drama. It was always in the faithfulness of God throughout the story. Now, from a production standpoint, testimony episodes are some of the highest performing content that you can create. And that's because they deepen emotional connection in a way that educational content alone just doesn't do it. They build listener loyalty. People come back for the voices that they trust. They strengthen your brand because they are irreplaceable. No one else has your story. And here's the thing that most people overlook when it comes to testimony episodes. It still has to fit the mission of your show. Now, if you host a show about, let's say, Christian entrepreneurship, and suddenly you drop a deeply personal episode about a relationship breakup, even a powerful one, you have just confused your audience. Ministry and strategy or marketing are not in opposition. but they do need to work together. So before you hit record, I want you to ask yourself a couple questions. Does this story serve my listeners in the context of why they showed up to this episode? If your answer is yes, tell the story. If not, it might still be worth telling, just maybe in a different format or a different season. Maybe you're just not ready to tell the story. So Revelation chapter 12, verse 11 says, "They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." And I don't want to rush past what this verse is actually saying. The testimony matters. God built it into the architecture of overcoming. Your story is not incidental. It is not just content. It's part of how the kingdom advances. But let's read that verse again. The testimony points to the blood of the Lamb. That's the sequence. That's the order. If someone walks away from your episode thinking more highly of you, my friend, that is not a win. But if they walk away trusting God more than they did before they hit play, that's the part that matters. That's the whole thing. So I want you to let your story, because nobody can tell your story like you can, do what it was made to do. Point to Him. Before you record your next testimony episode, I want you to write out these 5 lines, and I'll drop them in the show notes for you. Just one sentence each. The event. What happened in one sentence? The principle. What spiritual truth does the story reveal? Who is the audience? Write one sentence about who this is specifically for. The takeaway. What do I want them to do or believe differently after hearing this? And the prayer. What do I want them to be able to say to God because of this episode? Here's your tip. If you cannot write all 5 of these clearly, the story is not ready to record yet. And that's not failure. That's wisdom. So let it sit and let God finish working it in you first. Now, if you want more of this kind of stuff, practical, grounded podcasting strategy, I want to make sure that you are on the email list. If not, I want you to sign up because every month I send out a newsletter with lots of information in there about podcasting, hot takes, product recommendations. But I also, every month, do a deeper article with tools that you can actually use. And you know me, no fluff, no filler. The link is in the show notes for you. Just head over to wildfirecreativecompany.com and you'll see the link to join the email list up at the top of the page. So friend, your story is not too much. It's also not yours to throw at people unprocessed. People don't need that nonsense. They don't have time for it. There is a version of sharing it that sets people free. And there's a version of it that just exhausts them. The difference is wisdom. And wisdom, in this case, looks like structure. You don't have to share everything. And you definitely don't have to share it before the scar has formed, before it's healed. And you don't have to make it dramatic for your story to matter. You just got to be honest, be clear, be surrendered to what God wants you to do with it. And when you do that, when you bring your story to Him first and then to the microphone, what comes out isn't just a great episode, it's ministry. And that has always been the point. So thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Remember, you can love Jesus and analytics. You can lead with courage and care. And life is way too short for boring podcasts. So trust God with the process. He will guide your steps. I'll talk to you next week. Bye, y'all.